The crypto market took a bit of a hit today, and one well-known XRP chart analyst put it bluntly: we are at breakdown levels. Not exactly what anyone wants to hear, right? But don't worry, I'm here to share insights from several popular chart analysts with strong track records to make sense of what's happening. Here's the deal. Many analysts believe that before the market takes off and we finally see XRP hit price discovery, something we haven't seen in 7 years, a pullback is likely. This could mean Bitcoin briefly dipping into the $90,000 while XRP might drop below $2, maybe even down to $1.80 or slightly lower. But here's the twist. Just as many analysts think the low might already be in, and today could have been the turning point. So while the situation is still developing, there's a lot of optimism about what's ahead, even if we have to weather a bit more turbulence first. So here's the thing. We're seeing some movement to the upside, but when you ask different analysts, you'll get slightly different takes. Most of the analysts I follow aren't showing super strong confidence in whether we'll tank first or move up right away. There's a lot of indecision out there, and many are pointing out that typically we tend to see a bit more of a dip before things turn around. That said, some are arguing that maybe we've already dipped enough and this could be it. The truth is, no one really knows for sure what's going to happen next. We're all just riding this wave together, and that's okay. Sometimes the charts don't give us enough to have a clear answer about the most likely short-term move. And you know what? Saying I don't know is sometimes the most honest and accurate answer. That's just how it goes. When I notice that most of the analysts I follow are on the same page, they're usually spot on. But right now, in the short term, I'm not seeing a lot of strong conviction from them. That being said, let's dive into how things could play out. Yes, it might get rough, but it's setting us up for something amazing. Here's the thing. Not a single analyst I follow thinks this cycle is over. Not one. They all agree that even if there's a pullback, it's only going to set the stage perfectly for Bitcoin's final parabolic run. And of course, XRP will follow right behind. Honestly, I'm okay with that. I don't know about you, but I can definitely live with that. What do you think? But before we dive in, let me just say up front, I don't have a financial background, and nothing I say should be taken as financial advice. Seriously, don't go buying or selling anything based on what I say or write. I'm just a crypto enthusiast who loves making YouTube videos on the topic. It's a hobby, and I do it purely for fun. Now, as I'm recording this video, it's June 20th, 2025. For some context, XRP is sitting at $2.12, and Bitcoin is at $103,427.00. But hey, we've had a bit of a dip today. Maybe you noticed, it's pretty clear when you look at the charts. Check this out. Boom, a sharp drop. XRP hit a low of $2.09, but bounced back quickly. Bitcoin, same story. Here's the 24-hour chart. You can see that big drop at the same moment. Bam, the entire market felt it, but everything has since started to recover. Interestingly, XRP's rebound has been stronger than Bitcoin so far, which is worth keeping an eye on. It looks like this trend hit its lowest point around 12:40 p.m., so not too long ago. Right before that, at 12:39 p.m., Watcher Guru shared this update. Just in, $200 million liquidated from the crypto market in the past 60 minutes. This is a perfect reminder, folks. Leverage is not your friend in crypto. You really don't need it. Honestly, it's always amazed me that we live in this world, the world of crypto, where you can invest and see gains in the thousands of percentages. Oh, wow. That's definitely not enough. You'd need a multiplier for that. Honestly, some people go overboard and it's a bit crazy, don't you think? Leverage can be way too much for everyday folks, and I'm definitely in that group. It's just not for me. No way, no thanks. I'd much rather enjoy life-changing wealth without worrying about getting liquidated. Sounds like a better deal, right? Here's a post from Crypto Insight UK during a pretty rough moment in the market. At 12:19 p.m., they simply wrote, "We are at breakdown levels, fam." They were referring to Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. Here's the XRP chart they shared, pointing out some liquidity sitting just below the current levels. At that point, XRP was getting close to dipping into that liquidity zone, but didn't quite make it, though it got pretty close. Fast forward to the afternoon, after a bit of a recovery, by 3:07 p.m., XRP had already started to bounce back. At that time, the price was around $2.13, climbing back up from $2.09. It didn't quite hit the liquidity sweep, but it was an interesting moment to watch. And then he saw it bounce back up. Crypto Insight UK, one of the analysts, has been saying for a while now that it's pretty likely we'll see those lows get swept again. When he saw it pop back up, he was like, come on, XRP, just put us out of our misery already. He wrote FFS, but you get the idea. Honestly, I get where he's coming from. It could still happen. Here's a post from chart analyst Zoom. And of course, we're talking about XRP here. He's been mentioning this for weeks now, and I wanted to share it with you. So he posted this right after the dip today at 2:04 p.m. Central. Luckily, it looks like we already made it through the worst, and XRP even bounced back a bit. Here's what he said. I've been saying for weeks that a $1.90 to $2 liquidity sweep for XRP would be great to see. Why? Because it would give XRP the momentum to push higher and satisfy smart money bears. Sounds promising, right? Let's see if we get that move soon. It's just a heads up. There's a bit more liquidity at $1.80 than $2, but a $2 could still give us the momentum needed for a push upward. Another analyst has pointed out something similar, and there's a decent chance we could see a move to the downside first. If that happens, it's likely to be the bottom before we rocket back up, and quickly. That's why I keep emphasizing this while analysts are saying it's possible. If this dip does happen, there's no need to panic. In fact, some analysts think it could even wick lower before the recovery. One of them is Tasty Trades, and here's their XRP/USD chart as an example. Here's a quick update from this morning, still super relevant. Just a heads up, this was about 2 hours before the crypto market hit its local bottom today. The daily RSI trend line, which has been one of the most reliable tools for tracking this apex, is starting to break down. That alone says a lot. Prices have slowed, volatility has fizzled out, and now the pressure is really starting to build. What's next? We're likely looking at a sharp dip to test major support levels before things start to turn around. Let me pause for a moment because this lines up perfectly with what I've been hearing from a lot of the chart analysts I follow. She's been keeping an eye on these levels for weeks, and they're still holding strong. $2, 1 cent, $1.90, and $1.55. Now, $1.55 is probably the lowest target I've seen from any analyst I follow. Of course, no one's saying it's guaranteed to happen, and even if it does, it would likely be very short-lived. The exciting part is her confidence in what comes next. If this prediction plays out, she's expecting a massive move to the upside, and she's made that crystal clear. Here's the deal. Until XRP breaks and holds above $3, these support levels are still in play. Don't let your emotions fool you into seeing this dip as a sign of weakness. It's just the market building up steam for a breakout. This is how big moves often begin. A quick dip, and then boom, take off. If XRP hits one of these support levels cleanly, I'll be keeping an eye out for a sharp V-shaped recovery, which would show the market has found its pivot point. But if it gets close to support and stalls or bounces early, we might see one last push lower before the real reversal kicks in. This move helps us focus on which level the market is aiming for ejection, and that's the key here. The algorithms are testing the waters, gauging reactions, and they'll keep pushing until they find the momentum. So even if we have to dip a bit lower, the overall message is still positive. If you caught Blockchain Backer's video this morning, you know he's great at breaking things down in detail and explaining his insights clearly. I just want to highlight a few key points he made because they align perfectly with what I'm seeing from other trusted analysts. It's always great to see this consistency across the board. According to the Blockchain Backer, we're in a very advanced stage of the current chart progression. He made that crystal clear. He explained that in situations like this, it's common for Bitcoin to experience one final big crash. In fact, he pointed to several past examples of similar scenarios. If we do see that final capitulation, Bitcoin could drop to the $95,000, $98,000 range, something he's mentioned before. As for XRP, it might temporarily dip below $2 during this shakeout, but he doesn't see that as a big deal. In his view, this would likely be the last major move to shake people out before the market reverses and starts climbing again. Here's the thing. This is a pattern I keep hearing from reputable chart analysts. But as always, there's no way to pin down exactly how long a potential breakdown might take to happen, or even if it's going to happen at all. It's not guaranteed, as he pointed out. To emphasize this, the Blockchain Backer explained it could happen in the next day or two, or it might take as long as 3 weeks. So what could make the Blockchain Backer think we might not see this final capitulation? What would convince him that the low is already in? According to him, if Bitcoin were to break upward and hit a new all-time high, that would be a game changer. That would signal to him that we're not heading lower and could actually move upward from there. Why? Because that's not how these things usually play out. So if it did, it would be a big deal. That said, he's shown tons of examples from the past to back up his point. In situations like this, the typical pattern is that we see a breakdown first before breaking out of this range-bound price action. Here's an interesting update from Crypto Cowboy. He recently asked chart analyst Credible Crypto a question about XRP. The question was, has your target for XRP been met, or are you still expecting something between $1.95 and $2.02? Credible Crypto's response, no, I'm still waiting for a bit lower on XRP since my downside target hasn't been hit yet. Some others have hit their targets though. For context, Credible Crypto shared this at 1:14 p.m., about 35 minutes after XRP, along with the rest of the market, hit its bottom for the day. So even after all that, he's still like, nope, not enough. And honestly, he's been way more focused on this lately. Here's what he had to say about Bitcoin. Check it out. This was posted at 12:40, which was right when Bitcoin hit its local bottom today. What's interesting is that what he wrote about XRP actually came after this Bitcoin post. This is pretty interesting. Take a look at this. He shared an update, and here's what he said. Range lows finally tagged. If this is a triple tap base forming, the upper green zone should hold, and we might see a reversal soon. I decided to take a small Bitcoin long here for the first time in weeks. If we're going to hold these levels, it should happen here at the range lows. But if we lose this, the next level to watch is the second green zone around $94 to $98,000. Honestly, there's no need to worry. Both pullback depths are technically healthy. If you're looking for more context, check out his YouTube video. He always dives into some amazing detail. It's pretty clear why he stands by his beliefs and makes the arguments he does. But here's the key takeaway. If things dip lower and he's not strongly convinced either way, which doesn't seem to be the case, it really doesn't change much. Even if it happens, it's not a big deal because the market still looks set to rally upward. That's pretty much the vibe I'm getting from everyone I'm following on this. Here's something interesting I came across from X-Force Global. He shared his take on Bitcoin, saying if he had to pick, he's 51% bullish and 49% bearish. That's how close it is. He's talking about the short term here, and it really highlights what I've been noticing too. Even when analysts make a call, bullish or bearish, it's often with low conviction. Most of them lean one way or the other, but it's never with a ton of confidence, especially in the short term. It's fascinating to see how uncertain things feel right now. When I see analysts acting like this, it honestly feels like flipping a coin when it comes to predicting the short term. It's hard to say what'll happen. But then I saw a follow-up post saying, this macro outlook is 100% bullish, 0% bearish. And that actually lines up perfectly. It matches what every single analyst I follow is saying right now. I can't think of anyone who's saying otherwise, unless there's someone I've missed or just haven't checked in on recently. And I'm pretty sure it's unanimous. So honestly, I'm feeling really good about this. Here's the thing. Based on historic trends, it looks like we're set to head much higher. And let's not forget some of the other factors I've been talking about, like the rise in global liquidity. Businesses, institutions, and everyday people suddenly have more money on hand thanks to this increase. Are we really supposed to believe none of that is going to flow into investments like risk on assets, the stock market, or crypto? Come on, really? For the first time in history, people are just going to sit on that extra cash and not invest it? I highly doubt that. In fact, I'm pretty confident they're going to put that money to work. Now, no one can predict the exact timing, but honestly, it just makes sense to stay optimistic here. There's a lot of potential, and I'm excited to see how it unfolds. By the time you're watching this, who knows where the price is at? It might have bounced back a bit, or maybe it's dropped even further. Either way, I honestly think there's no reason not to stay excited. If it's a pullback, that just means we're getting closer to a point where things could take off again. And that's exciting too. It's all part of the process. Investing is really just a waiting game. It can test your patience, but when it comes to crypto, it's totally worth it. Oh, and just to be clear, I'm not a financial advisor. Please don't make any financial decisions based solely on what I say. That wouldn't be a great idea.